Okay, let's talk about it. Maternity leave for business owners and entrepreneurs. As someone who, at the time of recording right now, is 34 weeks pregnant, I can tell you that I have scoured the podcast realm for helpful episodes talking about how to plan your maternity leave when you run your own business, and have found very, very little episodes about this, very, very little helpful ones, right? I think people talk about the concept in general, and then there's kind of these different extremes. There are some people who, because of their situation with their partner, or their desire, their choices of early momhood, are just like full on taking everything off, kind of like closing doors, whatnot. And then there's the opposite extreme, that a lot of podcasts where they're talking about, getting like right back into it, right? And practically like almost like I'm going to take a week off for birth and then I'm going to start doing stuff again. And so I thought I would chat about mine that I feel like is more of an in-between concept. Because for me, even though if I really, really wanted to financially, I am in a very blessed place where I could just completely take off for a year or 6 months or whatever I wanted to, and not have to worry financially. For me, it's not just about making money. Like, there are some aspects that I will share with you about kind of passive income and ways to have some form of money coming in while you are on maternity leave as a small business owner. But there's also, just for me, it's like I've built momentum with these platforms. I have built, whether it's this podcast, whether it's the YouTube channel, whether it's my Instagram, right? I have invested into my newsletter community that is used to getting, helpful manifestation tips from me every week. And I don't feel right about totally ghosting for 6 months, right? Because I do believe there's energy. I do believe there's momentum. And yeah, it's not that I'm necessarily afraid that like people are going to forget about me if I like take a step back. But for me, my business was my first baby. I love what I do. I love the community that I've created on all of these different platforms, in my newsletter, in my courses, right? And so it didn't sit right for me, even though I did an Instagram poll about this. And asking people like, what would you do? Would you just like totally go off the grid and just like ghost for a few months? Or would you try to like plan content so that content is dripping while you're on maternity leave? And I would say 75% of people said they would just ghost. And I'm just curious. I don't know. I mean, I don't know the specifics of who voted for what, right? But my thought is that if you feel 100% comfortable just totally ghosting for an extended period of time, perhaps your business isn't lighting you up at all. And I don't know. I don't want to make that assumption, but I just want to share more about this middle ground, because for me, I'm also very cognizant of, the mental health repercussions, or potential repercussions rather, of birth and being a new mom. And my business has been something that, even through grief and breakups and struggle and my darkest days, when I'm creating content, when I'm in my zone, whether I'm recording a podcast or a YouTube episode, or I'm posting something, or I'm involved in one of my, group coaching things, or I'm writing my newsletter, I feel lit up. And oftentimes it's something that actually fills my cup and nourishes me. And so I think if you're coming from that perspective and you're someone that's like, actually, I feel good creating content, I feel good being active in my business, I think it's a really healthy thing to have available to you in different ways, both at the end of your pregnancy and then like going into new momhood. So for me, what I've decided to do as far as my quote unquote maternity leave plan is I am focusing on creating batch content for at least the 2 months post birth. And then right now, I'm even like, right as we record this, like I said, 34 weeks. I'm trying to record a few extra things so that I might also take the few weeks before I give birth off and to just have some time. And it's not, again, it's more so I'm batching this content so that I have the choice without pressure, right? So I have some girlfriends who have felt like amazing creative surges the last 2 weeks before they went into labor and created so much content in those 2 weeks. I am so available and open for that. However, if perchance those last 2 weeks, I'm like, I don't want to like put on any makeup. I don't want to get on the podcast. I don't want to show my face, whatever. If I just want to like nuzzle and read and sleep and, organize baby clothes or whatever it wants, for me, it's all about freedom and flexibility. So having this content prepared just like this, like you're watching this right now when I'm posting this, I'm within that window. This is one of those content pieces that I've created so that it's something that right now, while I have energy and I have space and I have flexibility, I want to utilize it to have this content. And then when I'm in those periods, whether it's right before labor or right after birth, if I'm super inspired, I mean, if you guys have been in this community for a while and you know me, if I'm super inspired, like we're going to be doing an Instagram live while I'm breastfeeding. We're going to be recording a podcast and, my little guy will just be hanging out with us and I'll do it. But I also just really want the space and the freedom of and the choice that if for whatever reason I'm in that space and I'm like, I just want to be in my cocoon. I have given myself that ability while still in my belief taking care of you guys, taking care of my community. And so that's the one thing that I think is first and foremost something to at least consider if you are listening to this and planning your own maternity leave, designing your own maternity leave, and batching content and continuing with a certain cadence on different platforms that you've already established is also something that can help lead you to some level of passive income, right? So this is the logistics. I'm like, why does like no one break this down, right? So first and foremost, let's talk about the content piece of it. One, what I would say is we do not like just in general during pregnancy. I've had a fairly, I would say, easy go at pregnancy. But that being said, I've still been so exhausted, have needed way more downtime, and just haven't had the creative energy that I normally do. So if you're watching this like pre-planning for like knowing you want to get pregnant in the next year or two and kind of just wrapping your head around this, which I highly recommend. I honestly wish I would have listened to this, 2 years or like at least as soon as we started trying, because it took us a while to get pregnant. If I had listened to this, something like this, and like kind of get my head around it while I was still just trying, oh my God, it would have been so nice to have some time to set these things in place before like actual pregnancy, because pregnancy is a total gamble. Some days you're going to feel amazing and creative and just like superwoman. And then a lot of days you're probably going to feel exhausted, unmotivated, nauseous, different aches and pains, and all different kinds of things. So if you're listening to this before you're even pregnant, like, bravo. This is a little side tangent, but like really powerful manifestation energy too, right? To be like just in the trust of knowing like this is going to happen and let me get my ducks in a row now. Because that if there was one thing that I wish I could have done differently is definitely have started doing this earlier, because like I said, it's been hard to add more to your plate when you're pregnant. So now let's drive the car back to the original lane of content creation, passive income, shifting your offers for pregnancy and postpartum. So the first thing is one, I would say, like I just mentioned, pregnancy and gearing up for your maternity leave is not a time to try to reinvent the wheel. It is most likely not a time to try to start engaging on a new platform or try to start doing something totally different. What we mostly want to do is kind of clean up your business and then modify it so that it is really available for passive income and also passive content posting, let's call it. So I would look at what are your platforms that you're the most active on right now, and also what of those platforms do you tend to convert the most, right? So do you get, like, for me, I have way more of an audience on Instagram. I have a huge audience on Instagram. I have a smaller audience on YouTube. However, my YouTube audience converts way better to one-on-one clients and to my programs because I think my YouTube audience just feels like they know me more. Like these videos, you kind of get such a vibe for who I am, what kind of coaching I'm going to do. Whereas like Instagram is just a very like transactional, quick medium, right? So ask yourself, what is that for you? What are the places that matter the most to you to show up? And like I said, if like making any passive income is a priority for you or something that you'd want to be open to, and why would we not want to be open to it? Like, how amazing would it be if you're just nuzzling your little newborn, breastfeeding, listening to a podcast or whatever you're doing, or sleeping, you know? And money is coming in from great content that you've already created, and you're also serving your community while taking that precious time with your newborn. Because if you think about like reverse, like even in this pregnancy, and as someone that is a content creator, course creator, coach, all of this, right? Um, I love online on-demand education. And so I've ordered, like I've done a hypnobirthing course, I've done a pain-free birthing course, I've done a postpartum course, a swaddling course. Like I've bought all of this content, and the women, multiple, not from one person, but like all different women, um, these women don't have to be live in person. Like for all I know, they're hanging out with their kids. And I'm invested, they're helping me out, providing me great value, and I'm able to do it on my own time. So you offering digital offerings is like a win-win for everybody, right? So pick your platforms. Where do you want to focus? Where do you convert the most? For me, just because I'm sharing in transparency, my YouTube, this podcast, my newsletter, and then Instagram, I'm also going to keep on, but it's not as high of a priority for me, to be honest with you, even though I have the largest audience there, because it's not a highly converting medium, in my opinion. And two, it just requires so much. Like I do one podcast a week, two YouTube videos a week. And then if I'm trying to post on Instagram every single day, that is like an F ton of content to batch. And so for me, I'm going to batch some content for Instagram, but I'm also going to let that be probably the most flowy and less stressy at the time, because it's just like I said, I find that it's just not, it's just not, it's just not as good as the other ones. that's my honest opinion. And also, to be honest, I feel like the algorithm is like the least fair. Like I love YouTube and I love the podcast because I don't know. I just feel like even though it doesn't necessarily have the audience that Instagram has in this moment, it really gets shown to people that need it. Whereas, like, I know that 98% of the people that follow me chose to follow me on Instagram, actively want to see my stuff, still don't get to see my stuff on Instagram. And one thing you'll learn about pregnancy is that your energy just becomes so valuable that it becomes so clear to you when you're injecting energy into places that don't value your energy, that don't value your creative thing. Anyway, we don't need to like go on like a I hate Instagram tangent right now. I don't hate it, but I'm just not prioritizing it. So you would pick what those are for you. The next thing you would do is you would look at, okay, what are, maybe you already have your content buckets or your content pillars, but I would also look at, okay, what easy digital offerings do I have that I could be creating content that if someone wants to go deeper, they could check that out. So for instance, for me, people are not going to be able to do one-on-one coaching with me during my maternity leave, right? But looking at the things that, what do people come to one-on-one coaching with me for? Well, maybe they're coming to do a big realignment in their life and help really get on track and get clarity and really open the doors for their manifestations. Great. I have an amazing 8-week program called The Realignment that will help them realign every area of their life and really blow the windows open for what can flow in. So that's one of the things, okay, that's going to be one of the things that I'm going to be able to lead people towards during this period where they can't have me live and in person. Let's say you're watching this and you're like, I'm a medium, right? And so most of my clients are, I'm channeling their, loved ones who've passed away. What could I possibly offer when I'm fully out of commission? Well, maybe you could create an awesome mini course or even just like a masterclass workshop of helping people with 5 different ways you could tap into the energy of a loved ones who've passed on. Talking about asking them for signs or channel journaling or doing a meditation, right? How can you give someone, even if you're not going to be able to give them the exact same thing as getting to be with you live in person, right? But that's okay. We just want to offer them some value during this time. So let's say you're a hairdresser and you're like, no, I literally need to be with these clients. Okay, but what about during your postpartum? If you, set up a video series on, how to do the perfect beach wave workshop, right? Or the best way to like do your hair for an event, right? And you create a few little, even if they're like $20 digital videos of you sharing a couple different tips and tricks and things, so that if people are like, oh man, maybe it's like how to do the perfect blowout. So someone wants to come to you for your blowout, or your clients that like love coming to you for blowouts. You could say, okay, well, I have this blowout video for $25 and they can learn how to do their blowout. Trust me, you creating content that helps empower, like I'm thinking you're a facialist, right? Create a do-it-yourself home facial. Maybe you have a kit that they can purchase the kit that comes with a video and you walk them through it. Do not worry about this leading to you having less clients when you are back in person, because nothing replaces you being live and in person. All of your people are still going to really prefer you. However, they're going to really appreciate that you created something where they can get a little hit, a little fix of something that they want, right? During this period where you're just taking time off. And mind you, all this stuff will also be great in the future if you're just on vacation or want to take a month off because you're traveling in the summer, right? So thinking about this, what are the digital offerings that I have that are, a good substitute or a good holdover to working with me one-on-one? And then when you're creating your content, really creating your content, again, like hopefully you already are, but for your ideal audience, for your ideal customer, and letting them know these tools that are available to them during this time. So that's kind of, I would say, like the overarching, like kind of main thing that I would think about. And in that regard, also thinking about how are my systems in my business? So for instance, how do you have a free opt-in? Do you have a free thing that, like, how are you getting people in your community? Is that welcome sequence up to date? Is it nice? Like, because you're not going to be actively tweaking there or whatnot. So having these systems set up so that, again, you're off breastfeeding baby, someone finds an old podcast episode or finds a new podcast episode or sees something you posted on Instagram, whatever it is, right? Can they then become a member of your community through being like, oh, wow, top 5, face secrets or whatever, right? Signs up for that, is welcomed into your community, is introduced to, like, hey, maybe even change your welcome sequence for your maternity leave and say, right now, I'm currently on maternity leave for the next 2 months, so I won't be cutting hair, I won't be doing facials, I won't be doing one-on-one clients. However, I want to make sure that you are well resourced. So here's some of my free resources. Here's some of the resources that you can invest in, depending on where you're at in your journey. Making sure that whole sequence is really tight. For me, I had a lot of digital offers. I had welcome sequences. I have freebies. And so for me, this period has really just been like going in and like tweaking and tightening up things and just making sure that for me, there's a lot of peace of mind going into this period, knowing that all the ways that people will enter my community. So let's say you're watching this video right now and you're like, oh, I want her, free, like, soul-centered small business, like, starter workshop, because I just love the way her mind thinks about business, right? Great. You can, like, click the link below. You'll get your free workshop and you'll be welcomed into my community. Maybe you're like, wow, I really want to do that realignment thing. So I'm going to check out her conscious lifestyle design assessment. That's also going to be linked below. And for me, there'll be a lot of peace in knowing that people that find me in whatever magical ways they are, because we're so magnetic, and I can only imagine we're going to be even so much more magnetic during that postpartum period if we're really sitting in our Empress energy, sitting in our Goddess energy, in that beautiful magnetism of I am a creator of life, right? And allowing all these beautiful things that you created before you became a mom to still flourish and live and serve, even while you are filling up your tank and showing up for your number one little nugget right now. And so looking at your welcome sequence, looking at your website, right? I feel like this has just been such a beautiful time for me to just kind of clean things up and just like do an overhaul and be like, okay, if someone showed up on my website, would they be guided to the things I want them to be guided to? If you have a one-on-one page on your website or group coaching page on your website, this is a great time to, switch out the book button for a waitlist button. Hey, join the waitlist and we'll let you know when she's back from maternity leave. Or email my assistant and she'll let you know when I'm back from maternity leave, right? So that you're not missing any of these hot leads that might be coming in. Who knows? Maybe one of the batched episodes or videos or content that you created goes viral, right? Maybe it will. You never know. You want to have the buckets to hold all the goodness that could be flowing to you so that when you're away in your maternity leave, you can be fully focused on that little nugget. So for me, I chose only to do 2 months because I can't imagine myself not going stir crazy if I went any longer. Now, if that changes, I'll have to figure it out, work on the fly. I do have some backup plans as far as like you can also go back and repurpose if you have old workshops that you did or old group coaching calls or anything like that. Use all of this repurposable content. So that's kind of like my backup content where it's like if I need to go in and have my assistant or you can hire someone if you're going into maternity leave without an assistant, you could hire someone off Fiverr right? Or hire a temporary VA for just this amount of time. If you need someone to help you load this content or post this content, nowadays you can schedule almost everything in advance. And I think reasonably, you'll probably have time. If all you have to do is go in and click post, right? If you've set everything up for yourself, what I'm doing is having everything in Google Drives with, the platform and the date and, all like ready to go so that I can just click post. For the podcast, I can actually just upload all of the episodes with the descriptions and then just go in on the day and click post, or I can schedule it. It has a scheduling button. So totally up to you, but I would have as much locked and loaded as you can. And then, like I said, look at creative ways to repurpose content. You probably have so much content that you don't even realize that you don't need to start reinventing the wheel, especially, during this tender time. And so you can even go look for a year ago or look at some old content that did really well, that really resonated, and repost it, right? So find the ways you can, again, make this easier for yourself. And then, like I said, I think those are the main things that I've been thinking of. Something else that I did during my pregnancy was I offered one-off sessions with me. For me, in my practice, I usually do 6-month transformative journeys for my spiritual coaching clients and my business coaching clients, so that we really work together and build the whole shebang. And I haven't in a while offered these 90-minute deep dive sessions. So for the last few months before I left into maternity leave, when I could not take on a 6-monther client because I wasn't going to be there for it, I offered these one-off sessions so that if someone wanted to come and do 1 or 2 or 3, where we really dive into a specific things. I've had, everything business owners. I've had love stuff. I had a money one recently. We're clearing some money blocks. And so you can also think about, how might I want to shift my services in the last few months of my pregnancy or during the whole pregnancy, so that it really works with, what my priorities are in the season and what makes sense for you. But that's it. That's kind of a little bit of overview of what I would be thinking of, and just an overview thinking of what are the platforms that you really care about staying consistent with. What are the offers that you either have right now or that you could easily create that could help your ideal client and still serve them while you don't have to be actively involved with any of it? Where are your systems in place? And looking at your business from, a really passive model of someone approaching and, entering their email for something, or looking on your website, or signing up for your newsletter. How is that all working? And kind of getting that all clean and in order so you feel really good about not having to deal with it when you're gone. And then again, also I would say, looking at if you have those digital products that you're like, this is what I'm going to be offering to kind of get people through while I'm not actively doing one-on-ones. How is that dripping down? Are you alerting people to that there's that is available to them in your content? Maybe scheduling newsletters to remind people, making sure that you offer, if you are like a one-on-one, not a one-on-one, an in-person kind of thing, if you have a live offering, making sure that there is a wait list, or, making sure that that's clear on your website. It's clear if someone tries to contact you. Maybe it's even your out of office message. Hey, if you are looking to book a session in the future, get on the wait list. We'll email you as soon as I'm back. So no one's getting lost in the shuffle. And then last but not least, I just made up a word, leastly, but not least, if you don't have a assistant, I think this is a great time to hire a VA, or even just like a part-time person. Or maybe it's just if you have a friend in your life that you wants a little extra cash. to be able to kind of just check on things for you. And you don't need someone to spend a lot of time depending on the size of your business now. But if you want to be like fully, detached, then, for me, just even having my assistant check my inbox for like half an hour a day just to make sure there are no fires. If anybody has any customer service issues or questions, that there is someone helping them. And again, you could hire probably someone from Fiverr to do this, right? And hey, it's just for 2 months and I'm going to pay you it could be a very minimal fee. Maybe only need them in there 1 day a week, 1 day a week for like an hour or two, again, depending on what's going on in your business. But just make sure that if someone sends an inquiry, you're not having to worry about that. That being said, I've never had a child before, but I have a lot of girlfriends who have recently, and almost all of them said that kind of stuff, if it's just sporadic and you're not dealing with like hundreds of customers, is super manageable even in that maternity leave period. So feel it out. You know your business obviously best, but that is a little bit about how I'm planning and looking at maternity leave as a business owner and an entrepreneur and someone that does work one-on-one with people. And I hope it was helpful. If you enjoyed this, share it with your friend. Let me know in the comments below. And like I said, there'll be all sorts of goodies. If you liked any of the different things that I mentioned here in this episode, I'll put it all below in the links. So enjoy and happy maternity leave planning.